Hello and welcome to Open All Hours, a QPR podcast. We weren't supposed to record this week, but quite a lot has happened, or one major thing has happened, so we've pushed the emergency podcast button and we are recording. I'm David Fraser. I've got two other regulars with me. I've got Paul Finney.
All right.
And Chris Charles.
Hello.
And we have, obviously the big news this week has been Ian Holloway coming back to the club. So we have three... Can I call you a remnant of the Ian Holloway era? Three throwbacks to the Ian Holloway era. Three men who were there. We've got on the phone joining us shortly Kevin Gallen. We have in the studio with us Lee Cook.
Hello.
And we have Billy Rice, who was running the media then. That's the best way to put it?
At parts, yeah.
Well,
times. I kind of got promoted a little bit during that time, and then I left.
So you were there 2001 to 2006,
Something
is
like
that
that,
right?
yeah,
which
was
pretty much about the same time as Ian Holloway.
Gary Woodall just took over when I left.
And were you the one who asked him the question that got the famous answer about taking a girl home and all the rest of it?
No, I wasn't. I was filming it, so the clip is actually my camera and me filming it.
And
so
you're laughing in the background.
It wasn't my... I think it was Paul Warburton laughing, I believe. I don't know who asked the question. I can't remember, but yeah, it was definitely my camera work.
Whoever asked it probably wasn't expecting that answer.
Probably no.
Okay, right. Well, there is only really one thing to talk about this week. Before we get on to that, just let me remind everyone, you can follow us on Twitter at QPRPod. You can listen to old episodes at qprpod.co.uk, and you can follow us on Facebook as well. Thank you very much to Chris Dunn for the beers tonight, who donated them online. And we'll get on with the podcast now. So, only one thing to talk about, Ian Holloway. Anyone surprised? Shocked? What's the general feeling around the table?
You called it last week, didn't you?
Did I?
Yeah, you said it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to have Ian Holloway and Mark Bircham. Or both of you called it. Okay, all right.
We don't have Mark Bircham hasn't been confirmed,
no.
Has he? But it seems an inevitable appointment.
Who he was at before have said it, but
right.
QPR haven't confirmed it. So
He's coming back.
He was with Tony Fernandez the other night with a QPR shirt.
Yeah.
So
we're not very subtle, are we?
Yeah.
These people keep these things under wraps. We just go, oh look, he's turned up the front room today.
Yeah, the media team will be pulling their hair out because it's almost been announced by Fernandez and by the other team, and they obviously have to wait until it's properly signed before they can say anything.
So
very frustrating for them.
Billy, as someone who's worked inside a football club, what would be the reason for the delay on that? Is that to move on the existing staff, or?
So when a player signs, you have to wait until they actually physically sign the contract. You can't say that we've signed a player or assistant manager until it's physically done. So other outlets can go and say it, but you look rather foolish. And when I worked there, I've taken pictures with players in the shirt, and they never actually signed.
Right.
So you can't.
Anyone bring them out?
I can't. I'm sure it was a goalkeeper. It was a rubbish loan or something. But we took a picture of him. Was it? Did we sign Paul Jones in the end? Did we sign him?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
It wasn't him then. It was a goalkeeper. I remember a goalkeeper. We signed
was it
him.
Mark Crossley by any chance?
It might have been Mark Crossley.
Yeah.
It might have been. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. But I remember taking a picture of a player in the shirt and everything. We were ready to announce it, and then they went, "Oh, it's fallen through." So it didn't happen. So from the press team's point of view, it's really frustrating because they obviously know that everyone's saying anything, but they can't physically say anything until he signs his contract. Pardon?
You should have said Messi. It's seen Messi in a QPR shirt.
Yes, I could have said that, but that would have been wrong.
Why not? It's that kind of week.
Yeah.
Lee, what's your thoughts and reaction to Holloway coming back?
I was a little bit surprised at first, purely because his name wasn't really mentioned in any press article or, even in the bookies, he was far down the list. Paul Clement and people like that, even Robinson was quite high up on the list. So I was a little bit surprised, but if you actually think about it, it's in terms of what was out there available, I think it's quite a shrewd choice for us actually.
Why do you say that?
I think not really on the football front at the minute. I would say the club, in the terms of atmosphere, in terms of how it had gone with the supporters, the club was kind of losing its identity a little bit. I think that getting Ollie in as a manager in that sense gives everyone a massive boost around the club. Even people that worked at the club didn't seem themselves, and I think this is just off the pitch. It's going to be a massive boost for everyone. Now on the pitch, different scenario. It's got a difficult squad to work with. I don't think the player recruitment's been fantastic. and he's going to have a tough job in his hands. But one thing he will get out of him is passion and working hard. Even the players that you look at the team now, like said Cherry, who might stroll about a bit, this won't be happening under Ollie, that's for sure.
But back when you played, I mean, you all sort of seem to have an understanding of Ollie and bought into his sort of philosophy and stuff like that. How do you think some of the younger players particularly will have no idea who he is, apart from maybe seeing him on Sky Sports? How do you think they'll buy into what he wants to do?
They'll love him. They'll love him. He's one of them managers who you want to play for his personality and the way he is with you. He's an arm round you sort of guy. He wants to know you're away from football hobbies, and he takes an interest in you as a player. And I think as a young person coming through, he's still the best manager I've had in terms of that. So,
can I ask you a couple of things? There's sort of a couple of, I won't say assumptions, but a couple of things going around that have been said about him. The first one is that he's tactically naive. That seems to be levelled at him, which I think in the main, we have this conversation on Twitter, Billy. A lot of people label people in football with certain things based on how they look or how they come across. Is that is that a Holloway weakness, the tactics, or does that not exist?
No, I think people look at Ollie and think he's a bit of a, because he's so funny and he comes across as a bit of a joker. He's actually, when it comes down to it, he's dead serious in his tactical setup and his preparation for a match. You don't really see that from the outside.
You used to do those pattern of plays all day on a Friday, didn't you?
Yeah. He's,
What's that?
Well, you can explain better than me. But
like pattern of play. So we'd do it for like 45 minutes of the way we was actually going to play that game, and he'd mix things up depending on the teams we were playing. He used to be a solid 4-4-2 sort of manager. This is the way we're playing. He liked to play football. The players he signed, obviously centre halves at the back weren't footballing centre halves. They were big, strong characters who could head and kick it. He liked to employ them sort of defenders, but generally, in terms of the way we played, it was an exciting type of football. He was there for a long time, and it kind of fizzled out in the end for him, and maybe he did need a change. Obviously, he's been away for a long time now, so I think him coming back in, we could get going again in that way.
The other thing that's levelled at him, which he said, was that maybe he's tired. So that was why he left Palace. I think he said he was tired, and he didn't last very long at Millwall either. And there's been a lot lately, chat around Mourinho and other managers, that managers have a shelf life and that maybe he's yesterday's man, which I've seen people write online. What would you say to that?
I just feel we needed a break. That's what he's had. He's been doing a lot of work for Sky, which he enjoys, but at the end of the day, his personality and his experience in managing what he's actually achieved in the game, which is a lot. It is a lot for him. I mean, people getting jobs these days, they've not done anything near what Ollie's done, and he still gets a little bit of stick because at a couple of clubs he didn't do so good. He's had a couple of promotions from the Championship, which is the hardest league to get out of. He's done that, and that was on shoestring budgets. Imagine if he had a good budget. They're saying now that when he got the job, let's say today, that he's been told that the budget's sort of tight and he's got to sort of work with the squad that he's got, but that's still a bigger budget than what he's had and a bigger squad than what he's had to work with before.
I think what you've got to remember is that when Holloway came into the club, we were a basket case. We're not a basket case yet, but we're certainly heading in that kind of direction. And what he should always be remembered for was putting players out in the pitch when we had no money, and the way he moved the loans. So whatever people say about him tactically, I don't know, Lee would know more, Billy would know more than I would, but you have to admire the fact that he can put a team together. It doesn't matter where they come from, how much money you pay for them, everyone in that team is on a level playing field, and he will get the best out of every single player. That's when we turned up for that Celtic friendly, I think it was, with trialists and free transfers and everything else. We had no money, we were administration, we were skint. So I'm a huge fan of his. And he is, but it also, the club was different now, because I remember once, and this is sounding good, I'm not trying to big myself up because that'd be ridiculous, but we used to do things at the LSA where you'd get a shirt signed and someone at the club threw a moody fit and wouldn't take the shirt down, so that I got a phone call to say that I had to go down to the training ground and get the shirt signed. And it was so open. You turned up my van. I've got my daughter in my arms. She's only about 4 or 5 months old then, and I'm walking down to Holloway to give him this shirt to get signed by the players, because he used to have the canteen as well down there. And I'm watching training. Do you know what I mean, with him? And he's chatting away. And he's so infused. He's bouncing around the place, and you kind of look at QPR now, but you've got the players going behind they've got the barriers out on the Saturday, and the club's different now to what it was then. It was a very open club. Holloway was an open book. He welcomed everyone, and it'd be brilliant if you can get the club back to that again, because we have lost our direction. We have lost that family feel a wee bit.
A big part of employing him is for that. Personally, I think. I think a big part
kind
of
of
it
culture
was the way that the club was going. I mean, this season's been diabolical in terms of the atmosphere down there. I mean, people I know that work in the club, it's just they don't just seem happy anymore. It doesn't seem like it used to be. This has been going on for a couple of years now, and I think him coming back in is going to change the whole atmosphere down there, from the staff to the playing staff to the fans and everyone interacting together again. I think we lost a little bit of interaction with the people at the club and the supporters. I think we lost it a little bit.
I think what he can do and what he will do, he will make the people in the club popular as well. He'll make Tony Fernandes a lot more popular than what he is.
Yeah.
He will get everyone bouncing because he has that about him. I mean, I remember years ago when we played Swindon before we went up to Sheffield, and he was on the pitch and he was bouncing. You could see the players bouncing. I'll put the video up from YouTube today. The guys, you'd run through a wall for him, wouldn't you? Just going to get some milk.
Yeah, you want to play for him. You want to play for him.
And he's a good guy as well. Because I remember we had a letter. I think a fan was ill, or I can't remember the exact circumstances. But he sat there and he went, "Oh, get me the headed note paper." And he sat there. He must have sat there for 40 minutes thinking about what to write and what to do. So he's a genuinely nice person. He does care and he wants to help. And quite often, I'm sure you've seen it. He'll talk to someone. He'll talk to them for ages, just going on and on and on talking, because I think he's a genuine person. He really does care. He's not kind of a fake. He won't say things and just try and get out of the door, whatever. He really 100%. Does care.
I mean, I remember when I first signed for them, when I left Watford and come to QPR, I had to go to a tribunal for the fee, and I had to go up to the FA headquarters and sit in front of a panel who would ask me a certain amount of questions on how well they thought Watford brought me up as a player. Now, I was going on my own, I had to wear a suit. It was all this posh stuff. And anyway, Ollie rang me the night before I was going, and he come and picked me up in a taxi and took me up there. He didn't have to come. He had the boys had training. I had to go up to the FA, and he didn't. He come with me that day because he was concerned about me and worried about me, and said, "I'm going to come and support you up there." That's the type of manager that he is.
It's
he
interesting.
Really cares about his players.
Interesting, and the last few days, the messages we've got on Twitter from fans and email fans of the club and followers of us, and emails we've got. Everybody has a Holloway, a kind of a personal anecdote or personal story of where their experience with Holloway and how he's gone the extra mile for them. And he really does seem a sort of genuine guy.
You've got to look at Hillsborough and the town hall afterwards. I mean, we didn't have parades. I mean, that sums it up. We didn't have parades. We went up the two times after. We had a parade that time. Somehow we were able to do a parade then, but we weren't afterwards. But anyway, but he just burned. His enthusiasm is amazing. And I think at this point in time, it's the right thing to do to try and get the club back on track, because we did a huge kick up the arse. It didn't work for Jimmy Hasselbank. Lord knows why it didn't work, but the football, like you said, was there. It wasn't catching on. The ground was empty. On Saturday, it will be buzzing.
Yeah, I mean,
everyone buzzing.
The thing with Jimmy as well, as I said last week, it was his communication as much as anything else, and we didn't really know what was going on. And the one thing I hope Ollie will do is the old proverbial round pegs in round holes, because a lot of the time we were seeing players so far out of position. I think, and I hope what Ollie will do is find a formula and actually put people in the places they're supposed to play.
Yeah, I think as well, talking about whether he was burnt out. I mean, if you're in Holloway, you turn up to Norwich on Saturday, the crowd's going to be buzzing. They're going to be singing his name. From his point of view, that must be an amazing feeling that everyone. You feel that love and that belonging. It must really spur you on. It must be a fantastic feeling.
Okay, well, we're going to be joined now by another player from that era, along with Lee. With a bit of luck, on the end of the line now is Kevin Gallen. Hi, Kev. Thanks for coming on. There's three of us podcast regulars. We've got Billy Rice, who I know you know, and a chap you may be familiar with, Lee Cook, around the table. We've just been talking, obviously, about the only QPR news story this week. Consensus seems to be that Ian Holloway will be the one to bring back a bit of pride and passion and get the fans excited again. Presuming you'll go along with that.
Yeah, of course. I think it's badly needed from the past few months, especially the home form. And you can play poorly or play sort of negatively away from home, but at home in front of your home fans, really, where the majority of your crowd are, you have to put on a show, and unfortunately, in the last few months, that hasn't. So I expect on Saturday a big turnaround, really.
And look, this is a question to both of you, really, Kev and Lee. It's sort of an open secret that Mark Bircham appears to be joining Ollie in the next few days. What role do you think he'll play, and what will he bring to this new management team?
Well, Ollie's pretty hands-on, and Birchie really well. He's a massive QPR fan. The supporters seem to be the majority, 99.9%. There's always the odd one who doesn't agree with the rest of us. But
Paul Finney,
Birchie will bring. Huh? Yeah, Finney. No, so the fans are really pleased. I think they're really pleased to see Mark back. I think they identify with a QPR supporter and an ex-player being in on the management team, and I think it's a good thing. And I wish Ollie and Birchie the best, and I think they've got a great opportunity and to do really well for QPR and to push us up the league.
When he was at Palace, he said he was when he took the job, he said, I'm sick and tired of being a joker. I'm a football manager, not a joker. And that seemed to be the start of his downfall. I mean, personally, I'd like to see him keep the sort of spirit and the fun that he's known for, rather than take himself too seriously, without obviously, diminishing the fact that he is the manager.
Well, yeah, I think that's a lot to do with the media and the press, and they always want, over the past few years since he left QPR, they always asking questions unrelated to football and what's going on in the world, and not relating to the club he's at. And Ollie always gave a good answer and a very entertaining answer. So, I'm sure the media and the press will be after some more quips. But when he was the manager of QPR, when I was he was my manager at Plymouth. I was at Plymouth with him for a while, and he was very bubbly. He had his personality shone through. But he was always serious about the football, and that's the main thing. And supporters and the media can't really see that when you're on the training pitch 24/7. So very serious about the football. He was always good fun to work with and to be around, and you get that in some of his interviews. But at the end of the day, he's there to win matches, and he was very deadly serious about that.
I'm going to ask you both this one in turn. Lee first, your favourite Ian Holloway story?
Oh, blimey. I remember we spoke about this at the old podcast last time at that Boozer. I think there's many stories about him, but a lot of them are quite difficult to speak about.
Go on.
With people listening. So,
we do have some young listeners, but do you know?
I'm not too sure which
Can't
one.
do it.
He can. Come on.
Can't. Seriously, if you knew what it was, you can't. There's many, but I don't know. Just on a day-to-day basis, there was stuff happening. But I think on a football sort of terms, this was quite a good one for me. I remember one of the first days I signed there. Mark and Kev being part of this when I signed, they were telling me how good he was at running and how fit he was. Obviously, I looked at him as a bald old man, so I thought, well, we can't be that good. They said, well, he'll beat you on a perimeter run. So I went, no chance. He's got absolutely, because I was, 21-year-old kid. Anyway, news got back to Ollie what I'd said, and got out to the training pitch, and he pulled me up in front of the whole squad and said, "Here, I've heard you think you can beat me at running." I said, "What? No, I didn't say that." He went, "Yeah, you do. I've got my eyes and ears everywhere. I've heard about it." He goes, "Come on, then, me and you on a perimeter now." So everyone was going, "Well, go on," and to be fair, I plopped a brick. I backed out of it. I thought, I can't, because if I do lose, I'll never live this down. So I went, "Nah, you're all right, Gaffer, it's fine. You crack on. It's all right."
And he would have been, what, 42? He would have been twice your age.
Yeah, but apparently he was really good, Kev, wasn't he? Like on them perimeter runs, he was a bit of a...
To be fair, we were all fit lads in those days, because, they did... him and Kenny, they did the training was very tough. We always, even if we didn't have a midweek game, we'd have a Tuesday running session, and pretty much like the Jerry Francis Terror Tuesdays, they were very tough. And Ollie was an excellent long distance runner, and just a quick story. It's not my favourite Ollie story, but when I was a pro, when I first become a pro, 18, Jerry Francis used to take us down to Richmond Park in the first week of pre-season on the Saturday, and basically a 6-7 mile run. And usually the first week of pre-season is always absolutely red hot, always is. And I remember just Jerry blows the whistle. We start at one end of the park. We've got to make it our way around the whole perimeter. And I see, and I'm thinking, well, you've got to pace yourself. I'm a young lad. To pace myself, 7 years old. 7 miles around. So it's just my little boy just walked in, and I just told him to get out. Johnny, get out, please. I'm on the phone. This is important. QPR stuff. Sorry.
Put him on.
No. Bye. And 7 miles around, and I just remember Ian Holloway sprints off for the first mile, and I'm looking at everyone. What's he doing? What is he doing? He's never going to keep this up. And he did. It was unbelievable. I thought he was absolutely mad. Yeah. He sprinted off, and I said to him, what are you doing that for? He said, well, I was just trying to break everyone's confidence straight away. And he did. Because he sprinted off at 100 mile an hour for the first mile. He was about 500 metres ahead of me by the time. Yeah, so he was Cookie. It was a good decision not to run in that day. Believe me, it would have been embarrassing, and we had all on him as well.
That'd have been good on the first day, wouldn't it?
What do you think it was that he brought to QPR at that time, Kevin, and that made us so? We did have this thing that we were QPR, we were a proper club again, and it was us against the world. How did he manage to bring that mentality into the players as well? Because we did have that.
Well, I think the best part of the job that he done was the signings. I think he got his signings spot on, and that is so important. I always talk about it. If you get your signings spot on, you're halfway there. He managed to get me back. He signed Paul Furlong. He signed Birchie. He then signed Cookie. He signed Martin Rowlands. He signed Gareth Ainsworth. These players were brilliant, and even Steve Palmer. These players were great for him. Danny Shute, I could go on. These players were great for him in the changing room, where he sort of left it to us to get on with it, really. I know there was a lot of guidance and training, but once you cross over that white line on the pitch on 3 o'clock on a Saturday, we had some really good there. And if someone wasn't doing it or someone wasn't pulling their weight, they'd be told, come on, got to do better than that. Not in a nasty way, and there was a good camaraderie, and he was very instrumental in that. And I think that was, his greatest thing at that stage was the players he brought in, and he brought in the players with the right character that bought into the way he wanted to play, but also brought into the way he wanted us to act and show the passion that we did.
Yeah, I mean, same as Kevin. I mean, I remember when I first come on loan, I come to QPR on loan first from Watford when they was in League One, Division. Yeah, League One, sorry. And I was there for 3 months, I think it was, and you always take the time to settle into a club, but I remember after about a week of being there, I loved it, and I didn't want to go. I wanted to be there all the time, and Watford called me back after about 2 months into the loan, I think it was, and I was absolutely gutted that I was going to be missing out on going to the training ground every day with him, his staff and all the boys, and missing that sort of banter. Watford was nothing like it. It was completely different. I don't know if it was because it was QPR and there was ex-fans there was a few London people about down there, and it was just, I don't know, it was a different atmosphere, and I was gutted that I was actually going back to Watford. You just wanted, you wanted to be around him. I agree totally. Going into training in those days, and it was hard. The training was hard, but the atmosphere and the laughs we had, it was just non-stop. It was like getting for 9:30, you'd leave about 3 o'clock, and for the whole time there'd be jokes going on, we'd be just messing about. It was really good time, and you go on away trips. I used to love going on away trips because we'd have to spend about 5 hours on the coach going up north, and we'd have the best laugh ever. And I think he's going to bring that back. I think he will bring that back, especially with if Birchie's coming in. he's the character that the lads are going to like. We're all close pals. Me, Kev, Bertie, Rowley, we all get on great. And Bertie's a really likeable, bantery sort of guy that the players are going to. He won't hold back. First day he's going in there, he'll be trying to see what he can say about him. What sort of banter he can throw.
Bertie will go in the first day as if he's known all the lads all his life. That's just the way he is. But
he will do because he's a QPR fan, so he's obviously been watching them, and he'll know who they all are straight away, won't he?
Yeah, but they won't. Yeah, but they probably won't know who he is. But they'll within a day they'll know who he is.
Well, do you reckon, Kevin, will it be blue and white hair again? Do you reckon?
Pardon?
Will he go back to the blue and white hair?
He's got a bit bald now, hasn't he?
I think
bleach his scalp.
He ain't got much left, so I think that could be the writing on the wall if you put dye in it. I think it'd be all over.
What was the story about that blue and white hair anyway?
Well, he actually said to me once, we were in pre-season, I think we were in Aylesbury, we used to go to this army barracks. It was the worst pre-season ever. But we went there, and he said to me, Kev, I'm going to dye my hair blue and white. And I went, don't be so ridiculous. He said, yeah, I'm going to do it. I went, what are you talking about? He said, I bet me £100. I went, yeah, go on then. I never thought he'd do it. And then he turned up the first game of the season with blue and white hair. He looked absolutely shambles. What are you doing? I didn't pay him, by the way.
You surprised me.
But it was about, I don't know, it was great on the pitch, but the problem was when he went out for a meal with his wife, he probably looked ridiculous in a nice restaurant. I think he always had to wear a cap or something.
Brilliant.
But then you can't do that at dinner table, can you?
I just want to ask you too. There was seems to be a lot of leaders in the teams you both played in under Ollie. There's no obvious candidates in the current squad. I just wonder whether you think Ollie will stick with Anua as captain.
I think he probably
will.
Well,
I think he'll assess the squad. I think he'll assess it, and I don't think it's the right thing to do coming in and you haven't seen anyone play. I mean, I'm sure he's seen them on video, but he'll have to give everyone a chance. I'm sure he'll give Anua a chance to play, and if he plays well, he'll keep him as the captain. If he doesn't, then he won't play. But to go in and just change the captaincy straight away, I don't think that'd be right.
No, I think the only way he might change that is come January if he signs someone that he's bringing in and he wants to be the captain. I'm sure it stay the same.
Yeah, just to clarify, when I said no obvious candidates, I meant no obvious candidates to replace Adu. I'm not saying he's not an obvious candidate.
Kevin, what was Steve Palmer like as a captain when you were there?
Steve was he was very quiet. He wasn't a very boisterous captain, but one thing he was excellent at, he was always fit. He was always available to play. He was always available to train. He very rarely missed a day's training, and he trained very well, 100%. And he was sort of an older statesman, where getting on a little bit, but he trained every day, and he led by example, as in looking after himself and giving 100%. And I think Ollie, and at the time, probably thought, this is a man who I can rely on. He'll be available to play every game because he rarely got injured. And that was probably the reason why he was captain at that stage.
Where does this leave? Sort of moving back to the present day. What does this appointment mean to both of you for the long-term plan? The long-term plan that we keep hearing about. Is this a long-term appointment, or is this a short-term, keep everyone happy, repair some of the damage appointment?
I don't think no one really knows what the long-term appointment is.
In my opinion, there's no long-term appointment. You have to win matches. If you lose matches, your job becomes untenable. But if you win matches, it becomes long-term.
Do you remember when we lost to Cardiff 4-0, didn't we? In the playoff season, we lost to Cardiff 4-0, and we lost just after we lost to Vauxhall Motors. That was my first week at the club.
Brilliant,
so we lost to Vauxhall Motors and we lost to Cardiff 4-0. And I remember going to that press conference, and I remember walking into there thinking, right, Ollie's gone, he's sacked.
Yeah.
And he just about held on to his job. And then I remember we
drew Brentford the next game.
Yeah, and then we beat Peterborough in the early New Year. We were on a run. We won what?
And then we beat Wickham.
We really
we were on a really big run. It obviously took us all the way to the playoff final. And then you had that momentum. But it just shows you football. If Holloway got sacked after that 4-0, no one would have moaned, because they probably would have deserved it. They would have said off the run. But it just shows you.
Looking back, Billy, he had at the end. I remember that very well. But he had the full support of the players. He really did at that stage. And sometimes, I think one of the main reasons is when managers get sacked, they lose the dressing room. And Ollie never lost the dressing room.
That's interesting.
So
he said when he was at Palace, people said I'd lost the dressing room, but I know where it is. It's down the corridor on the left.
I know. That's a good comeback, but you know what I'm saying. If you lose the dressing room, it's hard to keep your job.
But Lee, as well, when you lose a game, what was it like after that? It was all very well. We've seen Ian on the pitch and we're winning and things are going well. What was he like when things weren't going so well?
He was okay. He was always very positive. Always. I remember I had a bit of confidence low at one stage, and he put his arm around me and said, "Look, you've got the best left foot in this division." I was on a right downer. I had like 4 or 5 bad games on the spin, and I was thinking, "What's going on? Like this has never happened to me before." And he called me, and then we had Kevin McLeod there at the same time, who at the time was doing okay. And he called me in and he said, "What's wrong?" I said, my confidence ain't there right at the minute. I don't know. So I've never had this before. And he kind of gave me a bit of a kick up the arse and said, this is how good you are. Get out there and do it. And the next game we had Stoke live on Sky. Kev was playing in that game. We won 1-0 live on the telly. And, with it being live on the telly, there was a bit of nerves about. And I just felt a different man that game. And then from then on to the end of that season, I was in good form, and the following season as well. And that's the kind of stuff that he's like. Even if you lose a game or someone's out of form, he always seems to stay positive and believes in what he believed in bringing you to the club, or believed in the way that he was playing. He was always very positive.
He's hard work from a media point of view after a game as well. So I remember we used to have these northern trips on a Tuesday night up at Preston, and we used to drive up during the day, and if you lost the game, Ian Holloway would be in the changing room for hour and a half before he'd come and do his press conference, and he'd have the hump, because he took it very personally. He would, got a real hump about these things. He wasn't philosophical. He'd go in and you could see the emotion, and we wouldn't leave grounds till, gone midnight. Then we'd have a long trip back. So, even from, I'm a QPR fan, I'm season ticket holder now, you wanted us to win games. But if you lost as well, it was a double whammy, because you knew you'd have to wait an hour and a half for Ollie. You knew he'd have the hump. You knew it would just be a really hard job. So, he really took these defeats on the chin, really unhappy about.
Kev, anything stick out in your mind?
Well, yeah, I mean, there was times, I remember one time we played a game at home, I can't remember, but I do remember walking sort of down the corridor in the South Africa road where the boxes are after a game. I think we drew 1-1, and he pulled me and he sort of said to me, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like, well, "What do you mean?" He goes, "That's not you out there. What's wrong with you? I didn't bring you back to the club to play like that, this, that." Really gave me a real big kick up the backside, and but in a positive way, where he said, "You're so much better than that. You've got to do better than that. I need you to do better than that." So after getting the kick up the backside, he gave me arm around the shoulder. You're better than this and that, and you sort of go in, well, he's right. He was right, and then you're thinking, well, the next game I've got to do the business for him and do the business for the team. So he was good like that. He would tell you where you're going wrong, and he would be honest, and then give you come on, I need you, and that little boost to go out and play well.
How do you think Ollie's going to feel about reporting to Les?
Well, it's a difficult one and then it's not a difficult one because all managers have to report to someone. So you have a report to the chairman, I suppose, or the chief exec, where this time Ollie has to report to the Les, and then Les probably has to report to the chairman. So I think it's okay. They've known each other. They played with each other for 6 years, maybe in the 90s, whatever it was. So they're two football men, and they should know where it's going right and know where it's going wrong. So I don't see how it's a problem.
One Ian Holloway story that before my time at the club, I heard it from someone else at the club. We lost to Swansea in the FA Cup. I think we got heavily beaten 4-0. Yeah, and I remember one of my colleagues told me that in the press conference they were saying, "Holly, how do you feel you lost 4-0 to Swansea?" He went, "I don't care. I've just signed Kevin Gallen." So that was actually his voice as well. Yeah,
that was a bad.
And we won the next game 4-0 against Swansea in your second debut,
Swindon,
Kev. I
yeah.
think Swindon. That was it. Yeah.
The weird thing is, Willie Carson was at the game that day as well.
Yeah,
and he was
cool.
I do
the names in. Yeah.
No, I remember.
I remember that. I remember that Sunday because I was down. I was at Barnsley. They came down on the Saturday night, and I didn't really tell anyone that I was signing for QPR on the Monday. And I came down. I told a few people. I went round to my parents, and I watched that game against Swansea when we lost 4-0. And I watched it, and I thought, "What have I done here?" But it was, and a lot of people go, "What have you done here?" And I thought, "No, we'll turn it round. We'll turn it round." And the first game against Swindon, coming back, and we won 4-0. We were 3-0 up at half time, and I remember the relief, not only for me but for Ollie in the dugout that day, especially when I scored. He was over the moon, but also I think you could see the relief because losing on TV that night against Swansea was a poor result.
Well, they were bottom of the league at the time as well,
yeah.
I was there. But the reason why I mentioned Willie Carson was because he was wandering around going to everyone, "You've just lost to Swansea, we're going to hammer you. Could you find Willie Carson after the match? Could you fick?"
I don't think anyone will.
Quite difficult to find at the best of
It's such a name dropper, Paul.
He was outside the ground giving everyone shade that we just lost to Swansea. Anyway, sorry, Kev.
Final question
No
to both of you before we let Kev go, because I'm conscious that you've got a 7-year-old that we haven't let you put to bed yet. Day one, what's on the to-do list for Ian Holloway? Lee?
Change that formation. 100% change the formation. Play 2 up front, please.
Kev?
To-do list, I think his to-do list is pick the right team for Norwich to win the match. Regarding the formation, his last 2 clubs, he's been manager of Palace and Millwall. He always played with one up front, a big man up front, and a 4-3-3 system. So I'd be very surprised if he changes it. Who knows what he's been thinking over the last year watching the different teams. So we'll wait and see. But sorry, go on.
Which big man will he go up front with? Do you think he'll go with Poulter or Silla?
Well, it's a difficult one because, you'd think Silla, because to be fair, Silla is more in form, but he seems at the moment he's been great as an impact sub. So we maybe go with Poulter to wear the opposition defence down and then bring on Silla for the last 30 minutes. He's got some good options there. He's also got Connor Washington, I expect, to play more, maybe centrally and more running towards his goal than he did under Jimmy Floyd. So he's got a few options.
He's one that could get a new lease of life under Ollie, Connor Washington.
Yeah,
he's had so much stick and been playing out of position. Ollie could come in and stick him up front with Poulter and say, "Right, I'm going to play in your position. You're starting fresh for me." And if he gets hold of him and gives him that confidence and that boost, which we've talked about that he does before, we could see a different player in Connor, and hopefully he can get a few goals, and then his confidence picks up and he could be a proper player for us.
Without a green shirt?
Yes.
Yes.
Said nothing. Kev, you've been brilliant as always. Thanks for coming on, and hopefully we'll get you down Rangers soon, and you can get the old gang back together down QPR. Wouldn't it be great to have Lee Cook, Rowlands, Kevin Gallen, and Bircham, and Holloway,
Arthur the Hairy,
George Santos, winning games again.
Eric Sabin.
Get that old QPR spirit going. What do you reckon, big man?
Yep.
Will we do it?
Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah.
Good man. Thanks a million.
Cheers, Kev.
See you later, Kev.
Cheers.
Thanks,
Kev.
mate.
All the best.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
You can't argue with it, can you? He already. I mean, you think of the few podcasts we've done recently. I was buzzing this morning about the podcast. It was like you're coming in after another game with Hasselbank. I'm not slagging him because he's wrong, because he can't defend himself, and you're struggling. Already I'm buzzing for Saturday, and we don't even know what's going to happen.
Another thing to think about, and it just occurred to me when Kevin was talking, that Ollie's been away for 10 years or so, and people like to take the mickey out of QPR saying they lost our identity, whatever. He's going back to a club. He's still got Caroline, who used to be his assistant at the training ground, who's still there. Andy Evans in the community department. You've got Julian Commercial. You've got Jenny in the box office. And Diane, I think, Francis in the club shop as well. You've got lots of staff who have still been there and the backbone of the club as well. So he's going to see quite a few at the kit man as well. Still there. Still got the
Catmandu.
Still got the haircut of a 12-year-old. So yeah.
But what is it you think, Lee? I know we've talked about this before. But what do you think he will do in the first few weeks with that squad? Can he energise it enough to get it going? Because we're not that far away from the play option now. I know we shouldn't really be talking about it. We could
Listen,
do it.
the football's been so bad. Has it been the players that we got, or has it been the way they've been set out to play by the manager? Now, I personally think it was the way they've been set out to play by the manager.
Okay.
I think in terms of the playing staff, it's not the best squad in the world, but there's some decent players in there still, where we can play some decent football and actually look like a proper team. I feel that under Jimmy we played the same formation each week when it wasn't working, and he didn't change it at all, and it took him till 70 minutes to change it in games. This won't happen under Ollie. If things ain't working, he'll change it. He's that sort of guy. He won't sit there and wait. If we're playing having a bad game, he'll change it up.
Interesting. Sorry, I've just jumped in front of Chris, but interesting what Kevin said when we asked the question about long-term plan, and it seemed Kev's view was very much there's no such thing as a long-term plan in football. You've got to win the game next week. So, is in that case is it deliberate? Is this appointment deliberate? And is now the long-term plan to have a short-term plan?
Yeah,
for QPR,
100%.
There's no such thing as a long-term plan in football. People say we want to do this by 5 years. How do you know if a player's going to break a leg if you're going to do it? You don't know. 5-year plans or 4-year plans or whatever.
Yeah, the 4-year plan went well.
Yeah.
Their plans.
I think the plan should be is to get everyone unified, bring back unity and bring back the love that we had before, because the last few games we've had people fighting with each other and everything else. It's all got a wee bit pear-shaped. If one person can unify, bring out passion, bring out pride, bring out belief, he's got the job.
Well, I mean, one question I wanted to put to you, Lee, and everybody really, is that something that's been levelled at him by some fans, and is that he's been out the game for 15 months now. He's sort of a bit out of touch, you know. Is he? Can he hit the ground running? Has he seen enough football? I mean, there's one thing watching football; it's another thing actually coaching it.
As Clive Whittingham said on Twitter, it's not going to kill you, this appointment. That's sort of how I feel about it. Not necessarily the one that a lot of fans like. He wouldn't have been one that popped into my head. But you know what? We could do a lot worse, and it's not going to kill us, is it?
No, exactly. I mean, like we said before, it was a little bit of a surprise. But if you actually sit down and think about it deeply, it's a very shrewd appointment. And we've talked about the off-field problems with all the atmosphere down there. Things are going to change straight away. You watch Saturday at Norwich, it's going to be completely different. And that in itself is a reason to give him the job.
Until we concede in the second minute from a corner.
Well,
we all know it's going to happen, don't we?
To be fair, my 15-year-old came up to me last night and she goes, "I want to go back to Rangers." You know, I'm you know, whereas before you dragged me down there under not duress, but I used to hammer a few times.
She's got a good memory for a 5-month-old child, and she's reunited with her.
But do you know what my favourite Ian Holloway quote is? Ian Holloway is famous for all these funny quotes, and there was a video on Facebook that I edited years ago, and it wasn't particularly well edited, but it finished on a quote, and it's my favourite Ian Holloway quote. It is, "This is a proper football club."
Yes.
And basically, you know, Ian Holloway gets it. He gets what QPR is, and I think that is very important, because the fans will get it. And you know, he's a football manager, and things may go right or they might go wrong, but you know, he's batting for our team, and you know, I think that's very important for the QPR fans.
But the one thing about Holloway as well that he does get, he gets the structure of the club and the history. Because remember when Daphne died, he was generally really upset. Anyone at the club who was around him would know, and he made sure that she got the proper send-off because he understood QPR. He wasn't just someone that came in like Mark Hughes and didn't give a rat's about the club. He understands it. He got it. He got a culture, and he's part of our culture as well now. And you know, and that was amazing to see that what he did for Daphne was brilliant. And not many football managers would have done what he did at the time.
Okay. We're at the end pretty much. We're about to get kicked out. Time for final thoughts for ours end. Who's going first? I look at you, Mr. Charles.
Okay, right. Well, I mean, people said everyone's got an Ollie story, and a few years ago when I was at the Beeb, I used to do a column with him every week, which started off when he was Plymouth manager, and then when he was Leicester manager. Got some real funny quotes out of there, the cheap teabag quote, Ronaldo being hung like a hamster, all of that sort of stuff. But on the eve of what was going to be his final game in Leicester, they went down. My little girl was, well, a few weeks old. She'd been in hospital for a few weeks. It wasn't great at the time. And the night before his biggest game of his career, he took the time out to ring me up and ask how she was. And I thought, you know, that's the measure of the man, really. Just echo, really, what everyone else has said there.
Yep.
if I'm going to have a Holloway moment, it would probably be the time I text him the wrong message, and he went on Radio Firefly. He goes, "Look at this, I'm a QPR fan. He's telling me he's lonely." It wasn't meant for him.
What was it meant for then?
I can't remember actually. It wasn't. Yeah. Anyway, so a text thing. I think it was a bit of mad. It was like, working away, and I was like, "Oh God, I'm so lonely. I'm stuck in this shop." And then he goes, "I got enough problems on my hands. I don't need to keep your fan that's lonely into it." And I think, to be fair, I don't know him that well, but everyone who's a QPR fan feels they know him. That means he's a good human being and he's decent, and he will bring decent times back amongst the faithful. Results, well, we'll have to wait to see how they go, as football's changed. But there's 30 guys and women from Ireland coming over on Saturday, and what a game to choose. And also my mate Paul Hull, his son's mascot for Saturday. So have a brilliant time, Paul, with your son. And do you know what? I'm actually really pleased that Ollie's back. I'm really pleased that we've got something to focus on. And I'll be even more pleased with 3 points on Saturday, and we can start the Ollie revolution. But one last thing, and I know I shouldn't talk about this as a dyslexic, but is it O-L-L-Y or O-L-I-E?
I-E.
All right.
Have you not read the hashtag?
Because his name, O-L-L-Y, is how you spell, someone's name who's Oliver, but his name isn't Oliver, is it? It's a nickname based on Holloway. So it's just made up.
I mean, I'm Cookie, i.e.
But
people spell it with a Y and it annoys me.
Really?
Yeah.
Right.
I-E.
Yeah, I'm Billy with a Y.
But that's your actual name.
No, my name's William.
No, but I mean, no.
Well,
but
it's not your nickname.
It's not.
It's
not a nickname.
Won't tell you my nickname.
Okay, I'm just an idiot. Can I just say one last thing, please, before we go? Everyone on Saturday, get behind the friggin' lads. Get the place rocking. Let's bring back the good times and just have so much enthusiasm. We're starting to get our QPR back. Let's just roll with it and just see where it takes us.
Okay, I'll skip my R's then because Paul's nearly rolled into 2017 and go straight to Billy.
Sorry.
Well, I think it's great that he's back. I think it makes you kind of almost fall in love with the club, make you feel a little like a child. It's quite exciting. But just one story that popped in my head was, I remember we were playing Sunderland at home, and it was April Fool's, and I went and bought a wig because obviously at the time Ollie had a shaved head, and I just walked in his office. I don't know why. I went, "Can you wear this wig for April Fool's? I want to do an interview with you. We'll do it absolutely straight and see if you can do it." Okay. So he was brilliant. He did it. He was long. I'll see if I can find the clip on video DVD somewhere. He's wearing this blonde wig down to his shoulders, and he's doing this interview, and we're doing it absolutely seriously, and I'm behind the camera just creasing up laughing. It was absolutely hilarious, and he was saying and then in the end I asked him about his hair, and he said, "I'm doing a bit of match of the day work and I wanted to do it." And I'm going to have to find this clip because it is really, really funny. It seems to have disappeared in the sands of time, but I'll have to find it and stick it on YouTube or something because it's very funny.
Sure, someone can help us find it. Lee?
Just looking forward to the quote after the game, depending on how it goes. My favourite one he ever said was the unlucky one where so unlucky today. Could fall in a barrel full of boobs, I'll come out sucking me thumb. And I thought that was one of the funniest ones I've heard. So let's see what happens Saturday. But like Paul said, get behind them and let's rock it Saturday. And I think we're beating Norwich. Actually, they're not doing the best at the minute, so they're there for the taking.
Well, we'll do predictions as we go out of the podcast. I'm sorry to sort of do this when we're talking all about Holloway memories. I just have some podcast business to do, which is in the next 4 days. We're going up to Manchester on Thursday.
I'm sure with Chris.
Me, Paul, Chris and Chris Mendes, because the podcast is up for the Best Podcast Award at the Football Blogging Awards. So
well
fingers
done,
crossed. Thank you. And a genuine, real bookmaker has published odds on us winning.
No way.
20-1.
Ooh.
Is that all?
20-1. We are 20-1 on Bookie. They're a bookmaker called Bookie. We are 20-1. I mean, we're up against Bob Mortimer, and I think we tweeted it earlier, but I'll tweet it again.
The betting was suspended on Tim Sherwood. I'll have you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So David trust the bookies.
Are you seriously telling me that there's a price that we could actually...
There is genuinely us. We are available on a bookmaker, 20-1, but we are up against Bob Mortimer and the geezer from The Inbetweeners.
And the
from
son.
What's his name? Yeah, he's the one who does it. Jay from The Inbetweeners, his podcast.
We've got the Inbetweeners that listen to us. The guy who
exactly.
writes it. We don't shift.
Right, predictions for Saturday against Norwich. We'll go around the table, starting with Billy.
3-0 Rangers.
And we're going to win 2-0 Rangers. Lee?
2-0.
Chris?
Yeah, I'll go 2-0.
4-0.
So, between 5 of us, nobody thinks we're going to let in a goal.
That aggregate score is astonishing.
It's astonishing. Excellent. Thank you very much for listening to our Ian Holloway special. This has been Open All R's, a QPR podcast.
Yours.
QPR, QPR, Response Rangers are on the up and up. QPR, QPR.